Well, we've moved off quarantine near one of the little river systems, and we found something really cool. Now, it is 2 pieces of a bird's egg. Now, it's quite a big egg for this area, very white. So I've got a question. Who out there thinks they know what bird this egg belongs to? Now, the next question one asks, has this egg been eaten by a genet or a mongoose, or has this bird managed to hatch and run out of the egg? Well, I can tell you it's hatched. So if I take the 2 pieces and I carefully play puzzle and I put them together like that, and I hold it carefully, and you can see, so that bird is hatched. It hasn't been eaten. There'd be much more of a mess. So it's managed to use that little horn that develops on its beak in the egg to just break through and become a member of the bird society. Now, remember, #SafariLive, what bird do you think this quite large egg belongs to? It's a bit smaller than a hen's egg. Okay, now Vim and I have been sitting here for a while, and we've decided we're going to show you as many interesting things, 10 in fact, without moving from this very spot. You say that is impossible. I say it is very doable. Now, one of the things you learn a lot about on bushwalk is seed dispersal methods. Now, we are like all the other animals. As we walk through the bush, different species of grass, etc., attach themselves to us, and you can see how sticky they are and how they actually develop to get stuck into the hair of any animal coming past. So that actually looks like a little panicum seed that's got wrapped in, and you can see it's really in there. Ow! So there we go. That was one. I sat on a separate seed dispersal. Now, if you look at this from a distance, it looks like a beautiful little fluffy white seed on a little bush. But if I sneak... Oh, I just sat on one of these. Ow! Darn it. Ow, 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 ow. Okay, there we go. Ow. You'll see why I'm owing. If you look carefully inside that beautiful white fluff, there are razor sharp little thorns that are designed to attach themselves to the animals as they move past. Very, very cool. Okay, I just need to rearrange my... Ow! And then I put my hand on one, and you can see they're all over the place, and they just look like they're absolutely nothing. And then, in the closer look, you can see those evil little spikes inside. Too close? But now, as I said, so what is that now, Vim? That's, we did the egg. Ow! I need to go back to my original seat. There's no spikes there. Ow! So we've done the egg. We've done 2 different grasses, and I think I saw, yes, a 3rd grass that I wanted to show you. This is called small spear grass. I'm hoping these seeds are ready. See, we pull on them like this. Okay, so they've got a very, very interesting dispersal method. So they'll be blown from the wind at this. I'm hoping it's ready, but if you just slowly give them a little turn, they normally get that from when they go into the wind. And there we go. And we find a nice piece of soft soil where it would pop in. Tell me when you got it, Vim.
Cool.
There you go. Oh no, it fell down. Darn it. No. No, that one. Okay, I need another one. So actually, if you get one that's relatively ready to be dispersed, so if you don't have to pull them out, you just pull very softly, and you give them that little turn, it actually burrows, it corkscrews. It's designed to corkscrew into the grass. Okay, let's try another one. We've got a few. Okay. One of these is going to work. I got a feeling. We'll put it in my mouth. We'll try. But so basically, I think these might be a bit too green. Let's try now. Is it spinning in my... Oh, it started spinning in my fingers. No, you're supposed to wait till you're in the ground. You see it slowly moving. So it actually corkscrews into the soil, which I've always found amazing since I was a little kid. Now this grass, I don't even know what it is. The next one. It's speargrass that's gone awry. Look at that. So that hasn't managed to get into ground, but because of the wind, it's corkscrewed and tied itself in a knot. How cool is that? It's very pretty, isn't it? I think make a wonderful decoration. Well, we've still got a few more interesting things around us to show you, but it seems like Jamie's got one of the biggest birds we get here.
Beautiful big birds, and I'm very sorry, I'm just listening to the Game Drive channel at the same time. It sounds like Tingana might have made an appearance on Cheetah Plains, so I just want to keep listening for the updates. I know Rexon is over there, so we might go rushing across in that direction. And of course, as there is a certain inevitability, it seems as though our ground hornbill have completely vanished. It's the same ones that James was with. Interestingly enough, we're seeing them more and more regularly. And it looked like, from what I could see, a male and a juvenile. I couldn't see if there was a female with them as well. Oh, and there goes an Impala ram. Skittish in this windy weather. Racing along. Okay. No, there they come. There they come. They're going to pop out into the open once again. I love these birds, and the fact that we get to sit and watch them when they have basically come back, not quite from the brink of extinction, but certainly from being critically endangered. And the wonderful thing is that their numbers seem to be slowly but surely recovering. And this is a situation where human intervention has gone right in terms of saving these big birds. At one point there were around about 1,400 left in the wild. And through concerted efforts, that number seems to be growing. It was around about 2010 that their numbers were at that sort of level, and that equates to about 400 breeding females. So that's not very many at all when you think about the fact that they're distributed throughout southern Africa. That's why each and every single sighting of these is special, and that's why each and every single sighting of these birds is recorded and kept a record of, including the GPS coordinates of where they are. And there's a massive project known as the Mabula Ground Hornbill Project, where chicks are hand raised with puppets so as to prevent the birds imprinting or associating people with food. And ultimately those birds are released back into the wild. And the fascinating thing about ground hornbills, unfortunately, is that they're not particularly good breeders. It takes them a very long time to reach sexual maturity, around about 7 to 8 years. And records have shown, or research has shown, that the birds will not successfully raise a chick unless they have helped their parents raising another chick. Isn't that interesting? Sorry, I just got to move out of the way. I'm in everybody's way this afternoon. So while I try and dodge every vehicle, let's go and have a look at what James has found. How's it going?
I'm afraid this buffalo, for a long time, was showing us its better end. Unfortunately now, as we've come live, which is typical, it has turned its bottom to us in disgust. And as Craig was saying, and you must understand, of course, that doesn't happen very often, Craig was saying it's being so dramatic, and it was. It was looking up at us and sort of snorting and then tossing its head and then turning away and looking back suddenly. And now, of course, it's just being rather boring buffalo-ish. Let's move a little bit closer forward. We were having quite a nice time with this buffalo. We'll just sneak a little closer. We don't want to give him a fright, but it was great fun when he was doing his little sort of, not quite Liberace display, but it was pretty close. There we are. Hello. Liberace the buffalo. With two little oxpeckers on his back, trying to fight their way through the mud. They look rather surprised. It almost looks like they've built themselves a mud fortification behind which they're hiding. And I can hear another vehicle. I'm pretty sure it's Jamie. I think she's not far. Obviously she isn't if she's just had those ground hornbills. And there he is chewing away on the long grass. Ah, now that's a wonderful picture of him. Now I think the reason he keeps lifting his head and turning is because the wind is swirling a bit, so every so often he gets a whiff of human being in amongst the smell of the lovely grass and the rain coming in from the, well, pretty much all angles, and then that very pleasant natural smell is ruined by the whiff of man. And as we know out here, animals do not like the whiff of man. It makes them very uncomfortable. This is the only buffalo bull on Djuma, just about. Well, it's the only one I know of. We saw him in Twin Dams this morning, but I think well, I'm pretty sure it's the same fellow. He looks just about exactly the same. And they've been really in short supply these days. And of course, one of the interesting things is that everybody, or so many people come out here, and I've lamented this before, but so many people come out here to Africa and they're desperate to see the big five. They must see the big five. And so they tell their guides this, and especially
Oh dear, it seems as though somebody's disappeared off your screen. I'm not sure. I can't remember whether you were with James or with Brent. We do apologize. It's one of those that happens, bringing you a live safari from the middle of this beautiful wilderness. Sometimes the signal just disappears. But onwards we go. I'm still debating racing all the way. Tingana's on the other side of Cheetah Plains, so it's very, very far away. But what do we think? Hyena Den or Tingana? I think we should put it to you guys. What should I do? But you got to do this fast. You got to tweet fast to hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, Tingana or Hyena Den. I suppose James could go to the Hyena Den. We can toss it up. It seems as though James is having signal issues. There is a standby situation for Tingana, but we'll get in there. So quickly, Tingana or Hyena Den? Hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. What would you like me to do? Your wish is my command. We got to decide by the time we get to this junction, because I've got to decide which way I'm going to go. Which way are we going to go? Okay, I'm going towards the southern boundary. Which way should we go? Rebecca, what does everybody want me to do? Tingana wins the vote. Hopefully James will be able to go and visit the Hyena Den at some point. He doesn't have to. It's just I know that they are out and about. That was where I was on my way to when I heard this update. Okay, Tingana it is. We shall race to Tingana, and hopefully we don't get caught in the storm. I don't think we will. I think it's going to be absolutely fine. Now I've said that, we're going to get drenched, aren't we? Oh well. I was zooming around Twin Dams. Rick, sorry, is that animal static or is he mobile? Silence. Yeah, well, we'll find out when we get there. Hold on, everybody. Sorry, Mr. Impala. I'm sorry. We're on our way to see a leopard. You don't want to come with us, I assure you. Whee! Poor Senzo bumping along on the back. Senzo still hasn't experienced a wild dog chase yet. I'm going to race across to Tingana, as you desire. And while I do, let's send you over to Brent so he can finish up his interesting things conversation.
As I said, we've kept our promise. We haven't moved an inch. And here we go. We found the tiniest little grasshopper that's exquisitely camouflaged as well. Isn't that beautiful? It always amazes me how the insect world has really, really mastered the art of camouflage. Very, very cool. He looks exactly like the little bits of quartz and sand around him. Okay, now we've located, without moving, some more spear grass, and this time we actually managed to get one to go almost all the way into the ground earlier. Look at that. So let's try again. Let's put it in. I think I put... Wait, come on, get in the water around. Look at, there we go. Look at that. Down it goes. Oh no, it was stopped by the other piece of spear grass. Oh dear, something crawled into my shoe. But there we go. So we had the spear grass, and where was the other thing? Oh yes, right here, the tiniest. I'm very irritated with myself. Some of you might know, because I'm sure Steph showed you these bugs before. I cannot for the life of me remember their name. Now, can you believe that... Oh, he's gone. But that was a living insect. It's now just an egg casing. You see them, you can see that the bug is vacated. You can just see the little holes. But you've got these little bugs. They literally look like a piece of fluff, like a little bit of bird down as they move around. So cool. The miniature world. I'm sure there was a documentary called that. But now you might have noticed that I've got a feather in my hat now, and it's quite a big one, quite a nice pretty one, and I'm sure a lot of you will recognize it as the guinea fowl feather. And there was a reason it was in my hat. Earlier it was a clue to the quiz I asked a little bit earlier. Oh dear. And thunder and lightning, very ominous all around us as we sit quietly here in amongst the grass. Well done to Lauren and Aaron. So the feather and the egg go together. They're both from the same species of bird. Guinea fowl. Guinea fowl. This one's obviously from one that's been out of the egg stage for quite some time. Okay, now we are sort of being hemmed in here by the cloud at the moment, so we're going to start slowly meandering back towards quarantine, just in case it does start to rain. It's very seldom we get rain from the north, but when we do, it can be quite the storm. Okay, I'm just trying to remember, have we done 10 things, Vim? We've done spear grass, we've done spiky grass that's stuck to Brent's bottom, we've done a guinea fowl, so what's that? Spear grass, spiky grass, little bug egg casing, guinea fowl feather, guinea fowl egg, panicum grass stuck in my leg here, and still knotted from that. What are we now? 6. Oh dear, only 6. Okay. Thank you, Herbie. No, that's cheating, Herbie. Herbie's trying to help me cheat. He's bringing me something from far away. No, Herbie, I have to have it from here. Well, wait. I'll try not look at Herbie's offering. We'll use it later once we've discovered everything that is around us already. Oh, the grasshopper, 7. Okay. Now, and then that velvet ant disappeared. Oh, what's that, Vim? What is that, Vim? Yeah. Look at that. It looks like there's something that's made a nest there. Oh, there's ants. What do they look like through the camera, Vim?
Box skeleton.
skeletons. Oh, you know what that is? That's probably a spider's nest, and it's probably stuck. I don't want to break it open because obviously I think the spider still lives there. So he's meshed with his web these leaves together, and he's ambushed the spider. Oh, it looks like some Polyrhynchus ants, and he's eaten them all and just left their carapaces behind. That was number 8 for him. Number 9 is the bush itself that those Polyrhynchus or expired Polyrhynchus ants are in. It is a tiny little sandpaper. Oh no, it's not a sandpaper raisin. What? No, it's not. It's a flavescens. It is a little raisin bush, and in this area they don't get too big because the elephants like to keep them quite well trimmed, but they have wonderful, beautiful yellow flowers. But this is not one we see too often. We normally see the sandpaper raisin is the most common one we see, and that's 9 and 10 to finish it with a really easy one, one that I was saving, and there we go. Scrub hair pellets. Now they're not dark black like other grass eaters pellets, and that's because scrub hares eat their own feces up to 7 times to get all the possible nutrients out of it. So the reason they do that is because they don't have a ruminating stomach, so they've only got 1 stomach, not 4. So to get the best out of their grass, they have to eat it up to 7 times. Okay, it's I've got so many thorns in my bottom. Okay, well, I'll try to remove the thorns from my bottom. Let's go see what James Henry's up to.
This is a dreadful, dreadful thought. Brent Smith with thorns in his bottom. I'm sorry about that we lost the buffalo just back then. I was rather enjoying my buffalo sighting, as they are unusual. And what I was waffling on about was that, of course, the fact that people come out to Africa and they're told they must try and see the Big Five, and then these days all around these lodges, of course, it's been really difficult to find buffalo, and normally in the dry season nobody even bothers to call them in on the radio because they're all over the place. Now you've got people herring about, standing by, 6 vehicles standing by to get into the sighting of one buffalo bull. And it's not a situation that happens very often. And the reason I think it's slightly lamentable, of course, is because you don't ever find people standing by to get into a sighting of, say, giraffe, which are fantastic, or kudu, which are equally beautiful, or wild dogs and cheetah you will, of course, and they are not part of the Big Five. Now, our plan from here is to, well, first of all, stay within signal range, so we don't have any more problems like we've had with Wendy and Jigger today. And then we're going to go back past where Brent and Jamie were looking for shadow earlier on. And there's a good reason for that. Brent and Herbert think that she's left the cub in the drainage line there, and it is entirely possible that she could come back towards the area. And if she does that, well, then we might be in luck, and maybe we'll see her and the little babies. You can see I put my jersey on because it's become slightly cooler as I guess there is a storm raging somewhere. I think we're just feeling the outer arms of it at the moment. And so we'll just keep slowly driving along here and see if we don't have some luck with some tracks, or indeed the animal crossing the road. Hello Bobby, maybe you're a new viewer, but I'm sure you are, and if you are, it's wonderful to hear from you, and thank you for watching the show. You say, in the dry season, will we pump water for the animals? Yes, there is some water pumped for the animals, certainly, up around the big dam in front of Djuma, in front of Uitela, in front of one of the camps. There is some pumping of water. Just about every single lodge around here, even if they don't pump water, they certainly have dams to store the water. Now, I mean, of course, this is a controversial practice, because what it does is that it keeps animals around a specific area during the dry season when they used to move off and give the grazing time to recover. That doesn't happen anymore. Because we pump water. Initially it was because we thought we were doing a good thing, and we thought that, well, I mean, human beings need to drink a lot of water, so surely animals do as well, and therefore we must give them as much water as they can possibly need. And that, of course, resulted in an enormous decline in the biodiversity of these areas. The number of antelope species that could survive reduced dramatically, because those that weren't water dependent couldn't compete with the animals that were water dependent, like impala and zebra, for example. And so, latterly, the pumping of water has had a lot more to do with tourism. So keeping an eye, or making sure that your piece of reserve, where you have your lodge, keeps animals around, so that you don't ever have a dead time of the year. So there are always animals around when you have guests or tourists. So it is slightly controversial. Now I've turned off because I want to see if I can't maybe hear some alarm calls. We might be lucky to hear them. Unfortunately, jigger, of course, unless you're on an angle of about 30 degrees. Oh, there's a button quail. That's why turning off is so good. I just heard a scuttling. It's either a button quail or a baby Francolin. There. There. Can you see, Craig, just to the right of this bush? There, it's just moving in the grass there. There! It's not, it's a tiny little crested Francolin. I thought it was a button quail, it's about the same size. Look at them. 3 little crested Francolins going off with their mum. And their dad, and their aunts, and uncles. You know what this probably is? I wonder if that's not a second clutch for the season. I'm pretty sure that those other 3 at the back are juveniles. They grow up very quickly, of course, and I think that the year has been so good on the grass, seed and insect front that this little covey of crested Francolins has produced another clutch, a late clutch. Isn't that sweet? That's very cool. Well, maybe not shadow and cub, but certainly crested Francolin and chick. Let's keep going along here. It's only about that big. We'll drive very carefully along here. A little bit of pace up so we can turn the car off again. I tell you, driving an electric vehicle, as we were chatting about a little bit earlier, would be just so wonderful. Because you do hear so much more. And our ears are one of our most underrated senses. It's the sense that I learned to hone the first when I moved to the bush. Drive a little bit faster and then switch off. Now we'd be listening, I suppose, to the alarm call of the rattling testicular, or an impala. James, do any species of what occur in the area? True species of quail, you mean other than button quails? Yes, 2. We get the harlequin quail and the common quail, which I know might be a strange thing for some of you. James obviously knows about quails, but a button quail is a different genus, if I'm not mistaken, from the genuine quails, if you like. I'll show you a picture now. We're just going to come to a halt here in the corner. I haven't seen any sign of old Shadsy. And I'll show you the quails and button quails. The for button quail, 168. So there are the button quails, and they come from a family called the Turnicidae. And there's the button quail, the curricane or currichane or currichani or various other ways of saying it, curricani, and those are the 2 button quails. Then the other quails, which although they look quite similar, and that's why they're called the same thing, are not. They're in a totally different family, the family Phasinidae. And they look the same. We get that common one, yes, and we do actually get the harlequin quail as well. So both of those we can find here, and normally that's in years of good rain. And I'll just play you the calls because it's quite interesting. The quails, ow, 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 savaged by a biting fly, which is now dead. Let me play them quickly for you because the button quail sounds totally different from the other quails. Qua. This is the harlequin quail's call.
And now coming in from the north. And I said we don't often get rain from the north, but I can actually see the rain starting to come on that crest. That crest is probably about 4.5–5 kilometers away. So we're slightly moving slightly faster than we were moving earlier. We don't want to be caught out in the rain with the bushwalk backpack. It is quite open. So we're slowly making our way back towards the area around quarantine. We've seen Inyala, we've seen Impala, but with this strong gusting wind, literally as you see them, and as they spot us, they just take off. So we'll take the elephant path. Quarantine's coming up, it's just to the east of us. Okay, well, we're going to walk down our elephant path while we do that. It seems like Jamie has arrived at Cheetah Plains.
We have raced all the way to Cheetah Plains, and hopefully this weather decides to hold out on us and doesn't descend before we get to Tingana. So obviously I've stopped racing, and that's because I'm just waiting for my turn to go into the sighting. And we've got a little bit of a wait and some time to kill. Ooh. Some very deep rumbles of thunder. What have I got myself into? Just have a look at the clouds over there. Just look at this. Oh, it's coming quite fast. Okay. I take back what I said, Rebecca. I might need to dash for home. There's now some serious storm clouds. Oh dear. Rebecca says I must just sleep at Cheetah Plains Lodge tonight. Senzo and myself must just stay here. I don't know how they feel about that. Take a quick trip to the spa. Good question from Sean while we look at the dramatic weather and I make a decision that I have to make relatively quickly. Oh, just got whacked by the rain cover. Sean, you want to know if the ground hornbill is a genetic or an evolutionary failure in the same way that a cheetah is suspected to be. Oh, sorry, hold on a second. Standing by. Just a 3 in a row now. Just waiting for you guys to be done. Okay, copy. Confirm. Can I make my way in? Okay, copy. Thanks very much, Mike. Apparently Tingana is about to cross into a nets. Because Mike is very kindly and Taxon have said they'll move out because he's about to cross. So we were talking about ground hornbills being an evolutionary failure. I don't think so. I think, look, it's a difficult thing to say. They are very slow breeders, and I kind of see exactly where you're going with that train of thought. The difference is there's been a lot the same as with the cheetah. There's been a lot of human influence in terms of the loss of ground hornbill numbers, and there's been a use of them in traditional medicine. That's one of the reasons why their numbers have dropped. Oh goodness, sorry, I'm still listening. I'm distracted by trying to just sort out which... Poaching for traditional medicine, loss of habitat in terms of the cheetahs. Sorry, I've forgotten how to talk and listen at the same time.
All right, everyone, let me take that from Jamie. The question was, why are cheetah an evolutionary failure? Is that correct? Oh, are they an evolutionary failure like the cheetah? Well, I'm afraid I'm going to take an issue with that question. Cheetah are not an evolutionary failure. Cheetah are, well, I'm not sure exactly when their last common ancestor split from the rest of the cats, but it's got to be at least 500,000 years ago. That means, in fact, and I would go as far as saying 1 million years ago. That means, from an evolutionary point of view, they're much more successful than our own species, which is only about 150 to 200,000 years old. So they're not an evolutionary failure. They happen to find themselves now, however, in a vulnerable state, because conditions have changed from obviously when they were perhaps slightly more ubiquitous. The conditions have changed in that we have destroyed 90% of the habitat that they used to live in, and so in their current form they are struggling to survive under the conditions that have changed substantially since they were perhaps a slightly more successful species. So they're not an evolutionary failure. No species living can be considered an evolutionary failure, because it's to have got this far, it must have been successful at some stage. At some stage, environmental conditions must have allowed for it to be successful, because it's filled an ecological niche. So to describe a species as an evolutionary failure, I think would be incorrect. And therefore, to say, does the ground hornbill find itself in the same position? The answer is absolutely yes. Ecological conditions have changed substantially since they were a much more successful species, and we are probably the bringer of that change. Now, I've been reading about our distribution across the world as human beings. Now, we left Africa probably around 70,000 years ago. And by 45,000 years ago we'd reached Australia, and by between 10 and 12,000 years ago we'd reached Tierra del Fuego, which of course is the southern tip of South America. So we'd filled the entire Earth by 12,000 years ago. Now, the Earth before our spread was covered in an enormous number of different animals that simply do not occur anymore. We know this from the fossil records. We know that in Australia, for example, there were enormous marsupial lions. Can you believe it? Marsupial lions. There were giant sloths, giant tree sloths that stood some 6 meters tall, weighed some 8 tons, some of them. That was in the Americas. There were giant kangaroos, enormous rhino-sized, I forget exactly what kind of animals there were, all over Australia. Huge birds. The biggest bird that ever lived, the elephant bird, of course, occurred in Madagascar. But as soon as human beings landed in all of these places, these species disappeared. Saber-toothed cats disappeared as human beings arrived in all of these parts of the world. And so they were not evolutionary failures, those animals. They were evolutionary success stories that survived for millions of years before the advent of human beings wiped them out. So we as humans changed completely the sort of ecological conditions into which the animals had evolved, and that therefore resulted in a huge amount of extinction. Now, Milo, you're saying, what is an evolutionary failure? An evolutionary failure, I suppose, would be any animal that is not the fittest. It's the animal that fails to breed. That is an evolutionary failure. And so, for example, I tell you what I would describe as an evolutionary failure. Let's pretend that Impala over there, or that one over there, it mates with a female and they produce an offspring, and there is some genetic mutation that doesn't result in death, but it gives the animal 5 legs, for example, right? So it gives the Impala 5 legs. Is there any advantage to having 5 legs in the current conditions that we find ourselves? No, there isn't. In fact, it would probably just be a hindrance to the Impala, and so it would die out before it was able to breed properly, and it would not then pass on that genetic mutation. So that would be described as an evolutionary failure. So I'm going to continue with the story later, but much more interestingly, Jamie has managed to find her quarry.
Very much appreciated. Thank you, James, for answering that question. I'm sorry I had to focus on getting into the sighting, but in just a few moments, you're going to see the spotted head of, I assume, Tingana. I still haven't actually seen him properly. That's what everybody's told me. Well, that's who everybody told me it is. There we go. Hello, boy. Awesome. Awesome, awesome. How absolutely wonderful. And I'm really sorry, after all this, we're going to do one more repositioning. Oh, hello, there's another vehicle. So there we go. Absolutely wonderful, and definitely worth it, despite the weather and the threat of rain. It's all worth it when the big cats come out to play. Alright, I need to just do some chatting here, and I'll be with you very, very shortly. But while I do that, let's send you over to Brent, who has to start heading home.
This storm has become bigger and bigger, and it's sort of starting to leer down over us, and there's been a lot of lightning, so we're going to put our tail between our legs. Oh, there's a bit of it. I don't know if you got that, Vim. So there's quite a lot of lightning in there. We're going to put our tail between our legs and dash for home. Oh, there we go. So most sheet lightning, no lightning heading towards the ground yet, but we don't want to give them an antenna to aim at. So it's been wonderful having you on Bushwalk with us. Unfortunately, we couldn't find Shadow. Hopefully, James will have some luck later on the safari, and great that Jamie's caught up with Tingana. Now, we'll try to get you a few more flashes of lightning before we say bonne nuit. Whoa, there's a big one. Okay, that's a big enough one that I think it's time for us to start heading home. So thanks again, and we'll see you bright and early for the sunrise safari.
And with Bushwalk returning to the safety of camp, we might have to do the same in the not too distant future. So we're only going to get, unfortunately, to spend a very short time with Tingana. You can hear the thunder, maybe you can't. I can hear the thunder rumbling, and it's starting to get closer and closer, so we can't spend too long here, but definitely worth the rush all the way to Cheetah Plains so that we could spend a little bit of time with him. Looks to me like Tingana. I still haven't seen his face properly, but it certainly looks like him. And just judging by the size as well, absolutely massively powerful head and shoulders. Now, interestingly enough, I was chatting to one of the other guides who said that they feel as though Tingana's just ballooned in size, that he's just got so much larger over the last few weeks. I don't quite know what that would have been. Perhaps he's just eating well. Perhaps he's been enjoying a couple of very good meals. Either way, he has walked so far. From the start of our sunrise safari, before the Bushwalk backpack stopped working, we tracked him all the way through Djuma, all the way along the northern boundary, and now into Cheetah Plains. That is probably a distance of around about, I don't know, give or take 10 miles. He has marched. I have absolutely no idea why, presumably patrolling his territory, but it's astounding that he's done it all in one go. How's it, Steph? How are you? Good, thanks. Okay. And welcome to Cedar Point. Cedar Point, no, Tingana is not Karula's son. As much as this entire area is dotted with Karula's offspring, Tingana is not one of them. He is the dominant male leopard of this particular area and most of our Traverse area, and he's the most likely father of Karula's cubs. So he is roughly, how old is he now? 10. Must be about 10 years old now. And he is absolutely massive. He came in, when he initially moved into this area as the dominant male, he was given the name Tingana because he was actually very shy. And since then, he has become more and more comfortable around vehicles to the point that we can sit with him in the way that we are doing now. And he's completely relaxed with our presence. In fact, of all of our leopards, I would say that Tingana is the most relaxed around the vehicles. Tingana and Hosana and Shungile are the leopards that are the most comfortable with us. So no, he is not Karula's son. He is Karula's paramour. Would that be a suitable description of him? Either way, he has mated with Karula in the past and probably sired her cubs, potentially sired Tundi's cub, Tamba, as well as Shadow's new little cub as well. He has, in a way, also filled the area with his progeny. Karula's son, Quarantine, often spends a lot of time around this area, although apparently he's recently been chased around a little bit, so I'm not quite sure where he's ended up. He's often been on Cheetah Plains. And this is really about as far east as Tingana will go. You can never have absolutes with leopards, but this is pretty much the furthest east that his territory extends, and we don't often see him beyond this point. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen him this far east. Oh, there's a hyena. Hello, hyena. There's a hyena. Oh, it's just disappeared behind the vehicle. Hold on, it might come around in front now. It's only the second hyena I've ever seen on Cheetah Plains. There, he's seen it. You can stay on the leopard for now. I'll tell you when the hyena comes back. Oh, it looks like quite a young hyena. I don't think it's going to be tangling with Mr. T. Not if it values its physical entirety. Where has it gone? It might walk around in front. He's not at all bothered. Now, sometimes hyenas will gather together and chase a leopard up a tree, but Tingana, being the massive male leopard that he is, he could... There we go. Here it comes. Here comes the hyena. You got it. Yeah, let's go on to the hyena. Go wide. Okay, there's the hyena. He's going to pop through. Alright, now go wide, just in case he does decide to chase him. There we go. Look at this. Look at the proximity of these two. Does this hyena realize how close he is? Must do. It's not uncommon to see hyenas and leopards close together. And generally speaking, they ignore each other. Just stay wide, Senzo, because his ears are flat. Keep him in shot. There we go. Just a warning growl from Tingana. Here we go. A brief interaction between our two largest spotted predators. A hyena and this big male leopard, very closely matched, but that hyena wasn't foolish enough to take on Tingana today. And I don't know if you could hear that deep grr that he gave, and a snarl, and a little bit of a jump forward. That was awesome. Not often you see them fighting, though. It's unusual. Neither of them really want to injure themselves or run the risk of injury. So chances are most of the time when they come into proximity like that, they look at each other, glance at each other, and then wander away. And that hyena knew that he was here and was just coming to have a look and see whether or not he had a kill worth attempting to steal. Very cool. Guys, we've got to go. Rebecca, I don't know if I still have comms or not. Do I? I do have comms. Marvellous. I've got to go, everybody. I've got to get home, otherwise we're going to get caught in the storm. So while we race off home, let's send you back over to James.
Sorry. I nearly went into the lodge by mistake. Before we too sort of head closer to home, before the lightning strikes us down, is get you a view of this rather spectacular lightning from the top of the Arathusa Dam wall, because I think it will be quite spectacular. So that's why we're going down this way. I think I finished my evolution story. If I didn't, please feel free to send through a question about it. Just send through a question about it. And we need some lights now. Hello, somebody called Cedar Parks. Is it Cedar Parks? No, not Cedar Parks. Cedar Parks? Cedar Point. Hello, Cedar Point. Cedar Point, you want to know how dangerous storms are in South Africa. Well, it really does depend where you are. In this area, I wouldn't describe them as particularly dangerous. Up on the Highveld or the highlands of South Africa, so from the Drakensberg Mountains up to Dullstroom and Belfast and down into Johannesburg, they can be pretty violent. And you get a huge amount of hail and lightning. So yes, they can be quite dangerous there. But down here, well, I mean, I'm saying this, I don't think they're going to be particularly dangerous. Alright, we're going to look pretty much over the top of my head there, and that seems to be where the storm front is, and there, oh gosh, this roof really is a nightmare, isn't it? I wonder if I can't park at a better angle for us. I don't think that I can, unless, I'll tell you what I'll do, wait, Craig, let me just drive slightly off the edge of the dam wall here, which will angle us like that. How's that? There we go. Better? No. If we point the camera out over there, yes, you see, look, we've lost the roof. Alright, we're back there. We just had to switch one or two things in the final control. So here we are now waiting for some lightning to occur. I still think I'm probably not quite at the right angle, but let's just sit here for a little while. This is going to be a good place to watch it from. We're just not looking at the storm front, and of course the storm front is the most likely place for there to be lightning, because that's where it is charging itself. That animal dashing, Rebecca, was an Impala. There are some Nyala here as well as... Oh, my goodness gracious. Did you see that, Craig? Did you miss it? It was terrifying. It was terrifying, Craig. I tell you, it was terrifying. I can just hear the thunder going as well. See if we can't get a picture of it. You know, of course, that's illegal. So I'm not going to really try and get a picture. I am really going to try and get a picture. I find lightning rather fascinating. I think we all do, although, of course, it is rather terrifying. And now all the birds have gone silent in anticipation, almost, I think, of what is sure to be, or what could be, quite a big storm. And so there's just one or two little blacksmith lapwings calling, one or two francolins as they disappear to hide in amongst the bushes. And maybe we can have a look at some of the animals. Have you had any lightning there, Craig? I'm watching the other side. Let's go and have a look at the animals there. Oh, we have had some lightning. Oh, that's good. There are some Nyala. They are completely unaffected. Well, the one on the right is Nyala. The rest are Impala. So I think maybe that male Nyala has got a slight identity crisis. As it gets dark, of course, these animals like to move towards the lodge because, well, I think the predators do slightly avoid the lodges if they can. Oh, there's such a feeling of expectation at a time like, yo, that was a good one. Did you see that? No. We'll just sit here for another minute and then we'll move off. Jamie, of course, has got to move quite quickly to get home, because she's a long way out. I'm glad we saw Tingana. Do you say how will the storms affect the hippo? I don't think they'll affect them at all, you know. I think that they'll be relatively okay with any storms. They might stay in the water, I suppose, because the wind will make them a little bit more vulnerable. So it's quite possible that they would stay in the water as opposed to go out if the storm was at night time, which often they are sort of around this time of the year. So perhaps they'd stay in the water because they felt a little bit more vulnerable. But I guess then, yeah, I mean, that would be the only thing I would say. I would suspect that they might try and do. But otherwise, I wouldn't imagine hugely. Every so often you do find an animal that has been struck by lightning. But of course we do not want to increase the chances of that. So I've got to tell you, if this lightning gets too much worse, we're going to head for home. In fact, we're going to head towards home fairly shortly. Marissa, you were wondering about how many thunderstorms we get and if we get a lot of them. Marissa, we do get quite a few thunderstorms in this area. That's where most of the rain falls. I mean, some of it falls as frontal rain, but a lot of it comes as these big, sudden thunderstorms, especially if there's a system off the Mozambican coast, some sort of cyclone. And that's often what we'll get. But that was quite something. We don't get them anything like as frequently though as they do on the highlands. So in the Highveld around Johannesburg and Belfast and Dullstroom and those areas which are much higher up, there tend to be much more severe storms, especially lightning storms, and Johannesburg lightning and thunderstorms. I remember growing up with them as a child and loving lying safe in my bed at night and listening to the storms, and then going to live in Cape Town where they don't have them at all. They've just got sort of 3 months of rain every year. In just sodding or soaking sodding rain, and it would come through for months at a time with no thunderstorms. And I remember being so depressed by it because there was just no. And so I quite like storms, but that's because I grew up with them. All right, I think we need to start moving towards home now. We might have to be. Do we have to be stationary? No, we don't. I think we can carry on. Should be right. All right there, Craig. You're from Durban. How many storms there? Many?
Yeah,
quite a few in Durban, and probably not as much as on the Highveld. Jack, and you're saying, do we ever get hail? Seldom, but when it comes, it can be quite terrifying. There was a dreadful story. Well, I mean, it's not that dreadful, but it is quite scary. At Londolozi a little while back, I think it was about 3 years ago. There were some guests out on drive, and they watched a storm coming in like this, and so they kind of moved towards the camp, expecting, well, maybe it might rain, but that's okay, and we'll get back to camp, it'll be fine. And suddenly this hailstorm broke with, I mean, golf ball sized hailstones coming out of the sky onto these open vehicles. And there were 8 or 9 game drives out, and what they had to do was get some thought quickly and got their guests out of the car and under the vehicles. Some were sitting in line sightings, so they couldn't do that. They had to try and get their guests underneath the seats and try and put them under their ponchos as best they could. But it must have been absolutely terrifying, because something falling at terminal velocity like a golf ball as best they could. But it must have been absolutely terrifying, because something falling at terminal velocity like a golf ball if it hits you plumb on the head, it can kill you. So that was terrifying, but very unusual. Doesn't happen here often, I say. Again, needing to touch wood, because a golf ball sized hailstone will rip through this canvas roof that we've got in seconds. So hopefully that won't happen. We'll turn the lights on again, and probably time for a spotlight. Oh no, hang on. Lots of people coming through the bush here. No, they're hiding from us, that's good. Let's carry on. So we shall start to look for some night creatures. That is not a night creature, that is a Mrs. Nyala. Ooh, and a little baby Nyala. I don't suppose our infrared light is on, is it? No, not yet. It will be at some stage. There they go, little Nyalas. We just have to wait for Jamie to find some signal first. You see the Nyalas? They're those things running across the road. I'm just going to wait for them all to cross, everyone. I'll just give you a little bit of light on them. Hello. Sorry to disturb. As you were, keep going. Come on. Yes, we'll wait, but you must hurry up. Go on. Yes, all of you. Come on. Move. That's it. Thank you so much. Good. On we go. Rest of the lights on. We're now heading sort of towards the storm. I'm not very worried about it though, because Jamie is coming from that direction, and unless it's really starting to hit her now, I know that coming from this direction will be fine. It would still be quite nice to see Shadow out on patrol on a stormy night like this. I'm sure Brent is happy that he's not had to go to the tent just yet. Of course, we have got about half an hour drive left, so he might still have to go off to the tent. Ha 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 ha. And bash his head on all the lights. Woo. Rebecca, confirmed Jamie is in fact in the rain. No, nothing. So I think Jamie's all right. I think let's go up this way. I'm going to drive a little bit faster. Just so that we can get out of it in case we have some rain. And maybe we'll get a rain chameleon or something like that over the course of the next 20 minutes or so. I'm hoping that my explanation of evolutionary failure was successfully answered. Right, Jamie's managed to find herself no rain and some signals. Let's go and find out what's happening with her.
I have fled the storm and we've made it back onto Djuma, and I apologize, we appear to be rolling. I haven't had a chance yet to plug my spotlight in, so I just want to do that quickly. I was so busy racing away from the storm that I haven't had a chance to do it. We needed to do some spotlighting repairs. Oh dearie me, trying to find a light source so I can get down there and plug it in. We've got lights, so it's not a disaster if it doesn't work, but let's test and see whether or not Brent's soldering mission has actually paid off. Sorry, hold on a moment. We can look at the lightning while I attempt to do this. There we go. Isn't that beautiful? Where on earth is this light socket? Am I going completely mad? Completely mad, that's why.
Oh, hello everybody. We're just putting on the infrared light at the moment. So we're just waiting for that to be done, and then we will continue on our merry way. Not much else I can tell you. Let's look around here, see if there's anything around. Not sure why Jamie crash cut. I suspect a difficult area, perhaps. Foxglove. There's a foxglove over there. Alright, I think Jamie's got her spotlight sorted. She should be fine now.
I've got my spotlight sorted. Sorry about that, everybody. Sometimes the button on a camera just presses itself magically by mistake. That's happened to us before once, where I think it was Brian who was on camera. I don't know, I think it might have been with Brent. And obviously we don't show rhino, but they are in the Sabi Sand, in the Great Kruger area, so we do record footage of them when we do see them. And the playback on the camera started playing clips on that memory card of rhino, and everybody was terribly up in arms that we were showing rhino, and we didn't mean to. It was just a playback option on the camera that from a previously recorded clip. But there was much confusion when that occurred. I can't remember who was in final control, but it was very, very funny. Okay. Panic over. We've escaped the massive storm cloud that's rolling in from the east, and we're back on Djuma once again. That Hyena Tingana action was truly fascinating and epic to watch. You just see the, not quite truce, it's definitely not a truce, but the understanding that those two predators have in terms of how they're going to go about things and interacting with each other. And Tingana giving that brief snarl just to show that hyena not to come any closer. But you could see he wasn't that bothered. He didn't get up. He didn't move. He just... and then he was done. Truly epic to watch. It's less fun when that happens to you on foot. That is quite a scary thing. When a leopard does that to you, if you happen to bump into them a little bit too close and you didn't realize they were there. Just a little casual reminder of just how powerful they are, just how fast they are as well. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to speed through this dip. Unfortunately, it is unavoidable. I'll just have to go through it very, very quickly, so hold on, we might get some picture breakup. Can't go too fast, there's bumps. I'll throw Senzo off and he'll be very upset. Okay, I'm actually going to scoot through this area quickly. Should be okay. Let's go up here. Oopsie. Let's not go up there. Sorry, everybody. Hello. Let's not interrupt some poor people's drink stop. I will send you over to James whilst I navigate this bad signal patch.
We have our infrared lights now working, so if we see any creatures of the day or the night, we can view. We have our infrared lights now working, so if we see any creatures of the day or the night, we can view them. Elephants are best in the dark, I find. Well, leopards and lions are probably the best in the dark, but elephants are great fun as well. We're still just sort of gently making our way out of Arathusa back towards Djuma on a road that, well, would seem to have experienced an earthquake, or certainly a flood. Right, here we go, down into the depths. See what we have down here. But you're wondering about meteorites and whether we experienced one here in the depths here. Mohammed, you're wondering about meteorites and whether we have ever experienced one here. I'm assuming you mean one that has actually hit the ground, which I think, well, by definition, it must have hit the ground if it was a meteorite. And the answer is, I'm sure in prehistory there must have been, but no, not while any of us have been here, I don't think, and indeed not probably while any of the mammals in this area have been alive. There is an enormous meteorite crater just near Pretoria, which is quite close to, well, Pretoria is quite close to Johannesburg, so on the Highveld again, there's an enormous meteorite crater from a long time ago, and then, I'm not sure how long ago, probably about 2 million years I think it was, and then of course there's an even bigger one, called, its name has now escaped me, what's it called? Come on, Batman. What's it called? It's a massive thing in South Africa that could actually even have been the one that wiped the dinosaurs out. I can't believe I've forgotten its name. Anyway, it's not anywhere near here. I think it's up in the northern Free State or Northern Cape. But its name escapes me. Yes, Vredefort. Is that it? Vredefort? Maybe that's what it is. Getting that from the final control, so it could easily be that. But not around here, thankfully. And in fact, this area, Mohammed, has had very little in the way of tectonic activity or volcanic upheaval or, you know, impacts from the sky and that sort of thing. And that means that the soil is very ancient, it's very stable, and what it means is that we've got a situation where the soil is very old, and so it's quite nutrient poor. All right, and find out where she is.
Oh dear, I'm so sorry. It seems as though our tiny little baby scrub hare has hopped away, and I didn't really want to spend too long with the spotlight on it just because it is such a baby scrub hare. It was probably only about this big, and whoops, oh goodness, one hand driving with the spotlight, and it was just a little bit too young and all on its own. I don't know where the adults were, so I just decided I would not try and relocate it once it had hopped away. But it was terribly sweet. And of course, scrub hares born completely precocial. One of the big difference between rabbits and hares in general, and in terms of the lagomorph family, rabbits are altricial. So in other words, they're born blind and helpless and very small and underdeveloped, whereas hares, because they don't actually burrow down or hide their babies away, they're born pretty much ready to run from day one, like baby wildebeest or baby impala. It'll be absolutely fine hopping about all on its own. And it's probably already very close to independence, even though I'm not quite sure exactly when scrub hares become independent from their parents, but it's probably a very early age. Oh dear. Oh well, let's see what else we can find. Perhaps we can test Senzo on a bush baby. He's been doing so well. And welcome to Jade as we head into the evening. Jade, there's now. Oh no. There we go. There you go, Jade. There's now for you. Can you see it there? It's right in the middle of my spotlight. There we go. Well done, Senzo. Looks like a pearl spotted, judging by those two eyes on the back of its head. So there you go, a pearl spotted owlet. What a perfect timing that was. Because Jade's question was, have we had any owl sightings? And what types of owls do we get out here? Well, that was beautifully timed, little pearl-spotted owlet. Yes, I'm talking to you. Oh, you look so angry. They always look so angry. So disgruntled with life. And then you see the 2 spots on the back of its head, obviously, presumably meant to look like eyes, so that it is intimidating to something that might try and attack it. And just to give you a sense of scale, that little owlet is probably not much bigger than my hand. So it's very, very small. And that, along with the Scops owl, and the African barred owlet, and the white-faced Scops owl, or the southern white-faced owl, those are the little owls that we get out here, tiny little crepuscular owls. In other words, they're active early in the morning and late and sort of early in the evening as well, but generally not right in the middle of the night. And then our slightly larger owls, we generally see Verreaux's eagle owls, which are absolutely massive and could easily eat a little owl like this for dinner, or a guinea fowl or anything like that, and spotted eagle owls. And before I saw this little pearl-spotted owl, I was about to say to Jade that we actually had owl tracks of a spotted eagle owl on the road this morning on bushwalk. It was one of the quizzes that I asked. It is so cute. I love pearl-spotted owls. Look how puffed up he got. Oh, boop. Okay, that wasn't what I was looking to inspire, but anyway, that's what we got. I was hoping it was going to call, it defecated instead. That's what it thinks of my pearl-spotted owlet impression. Obviously wasn't very good. Or perhaps it was marvelous, and that is just an owl's way of showing appreciation. I'm just going to stop for 1 second. Right, I'm going to search for pictures of owls to show Jade while I do. Let's go and see whether or not James has managed to find his way out of Arathusa.
I have actually just about found my way out, but I will tell you that I got lost. I ended up heading due west by mistake, and that is because I'm going to claim that the storm disorientated me completely. I'm now in the right place, however. We are on to the triple M break, as it were. There is lightning splashing all over the place, and shortly we're going to turn right onto Djuma. I just need to try and not blind this poor person coming along the road. Unfortunately, the lights on this car are either bright or nothing. So this person is just going to have to, well, put up with it, as it were. Sorry. Sorry, old boy. Old buddy, old pal. You shouldn't actually really do. I need to turn here. There we go. I think that's actually Opa, our mechanic. Alright, here we go. I have found we have seen some bronze-wing coursers, which obviously many of you have seen before. We've seen one scrub hare, which has now disappeared, and we're now heading pretty much for home. I'm very pleased that Jamie managed to find you an owl. I saw one owl in India. It was called a brown fish owl. They have a number of different kinds of fish-eating owls there. Not just the one like we have here. Well, this would be a very good place for a lion to lurk, and if I didn't know that all the lions were not here, well, then I'd expect to see one. Arkansas John, something about light and owls' ability to hunt. Right, you say, does it affect their ability to hunt? And I suspect, Arkansas John, that yes, temporarily it must do. I mean, if you shine a light this bright directly into an animal's face, it will most certainly start to see, bright lights like we do. It'll just take a little while for the pupils to readjust to the dark. So were you to shine on it as it flew over the top, then yes, I think it probably would be something of a difficulty for the owl. But if it's just sitting and waiting, well, I guess it doesn't really matter, because it'll affect it temporarily and then it'll be fine. Alright, let's head back across to Jamie. She's going to tell you a bit more about owls. Thank you very much for joining us on our drive today. Hopefully we'll have a more cat-rich day tomorrow. Until then, we'll see you at 6 o'clock. Bye-bye.
I am going to tell you a little bit more about the various owls just very quickly, because I did promise that I would. So this is the barn owl, and I haven't seen one here yet, but I have heard them. It's a very high-pitched shrieking sound. That is a bird that was responsible for probably the biggest fright I've ever had in my life, when I was exploring an abandoned farmhouse once, and it came flying out of the roof. I'm not sure which of us got a bigger fright, but I'm pretty sure it was me, and I'm pretty sure it's the girliest scream I have ever emitted. So that is a barn owl. Let's go quickly. I know we're getting to the end of the sunset safari. This is a wood owl, an African wood owl. Haven't seen one here. I've heard that they have been heard, if that makes any sense. So they are around. And then let me just quickly turn the page. There we go. So this is the Verreaux's eagle owl. Absolutely massive, up to around about 66 centimeters in height. So that is the Verreaux's giant eagle owl. We won't see Pell's fishing owl here, unfortunately, so we won't count that. And then one more page turn quickly. Lots of owls. Where's the one I'm looking for? This is the one I'm looking for. Spotted eagle owl. That's probably the most common to see, along with the little ones. And then one more page turn. And then there's our little owls. Scops owl. And Leo, just quickly while we look at our Scops owl, this is the Scops owl, and then one more page turn. You want to know how big an owl's eye... Oh, sorry about the glare. Sorry about the glare. There we go. Southern white-faced Scops owl. Leo, you want to know how big their eyes are in comparison to their head? Enormous. This is the owl we were looking at earlier, the pearl-spotted owl. See the dark spots behind the head? So their eyes and their eye sockets are actually larger than their brains in certain species of owl. So absolutely massive. This is the little barred owl. And I think that is that. A summary of the various owl species that we see out here. These are actually owlets, which is basically just a small owl. Okay. Whew, that was a very rapid picture show, and I actually had more time than I realized I did. But there you go. So Leo, sorry, I didn't actually properly answer your question because I was rushing through the pages of the book. Their eyes are... It's not just the eye that you can see, it's the massive socket that sits behind in their skulls and the nerve pathways that obviously travel through from the retina back into the brain. That's what gives them that amazing ability to see in the dark and make use of very, very little ambient light. And then their hearing as well is very important because they've got offset ears. So one is higher than the other, which means they can actually pinpoint far more precisely exactly where a sound is coming from. Couple that with the ability to turn their head 270 degrees around, to basically turn around and look back over their shoulder, and you've got a bird that is really very well adapted for moving around at night and in darkness. I'm very glad that we got to see an owl. It was very appropriate for the end of our sunset safari and for Jade's question. I hope that answers your question, Jade. Hopefully, during the course of our live safaris, we'll be able to show you some more beautiful birds of the evening. Just grabbing a spider web. I'm not doing an interpretive dance. Right, on that note, it is a time for us to do our final goodbyes and our thank yous. So thank you to Senzo. I think you'll all agree he's done amazing work with us so far. He's only been here a few days, and what a spectacular job he's been doing. And to Rebecca and to Alice in final control. And of course to James, Brent, Craig and Viam, our wonderful cameraman as well. Most importantly, a big thank you to all of you for joining us. It just wouldn't be the same without you. Stay tuned for the sunrise safari tomorrow. Who knows, Queen Karula might make an appearance, Shadow might turn up again. We just don't know what to expect. I'm excited and I'm sure you are too. Bye-bye, everybody.